The story begins by showing a city where in a construction area, a thief was researching underwater. He had to fix all the work given by his construction company that was inside the water. The thief was busy with his work when he spotted an odd box on the seabed. He left everything aside and began to open the box. Although he succeeded in opening the box a little, his attention wandered, causing a large pipe to fall on him, crushing the poor thief to death. Due to all the commotion, the box opened by itself, revealing a strange mask inside. Now this unknown mask had surfaced above the water. Now in the city, Stanley used to make a lot of jokes with Stanley as well as work at home with his dog. Now the next day, Stanley is working in his bank, inviting a girl to watch a movie, but that lady has both tickets. And said that I will go with any other friend of mine and I have tickets. Stanley felt very bad about this thing and he was busy with his work now for a few hours in the bank. A very beautiful lady named Tina comes, who had to know some policies of the bank. Tina was flirting with Stanley while talking to Stanley. Stanley also gets busy talking to Tina. But the reality was that there was a camera in Tina's bag, which was scanning the entire bank security system. And later it turned out that Tina was doing all these things for a very big gangster named Reno, who was probably planning to hack the entire bank system and loot the money here. Stanley was very troubled by all these things because whichever girl he went to befriend would deceive him. So now Stanley's friend whose name was Charlie was inviting him to a very big party tonight. Stanley also agrees for this because he will have to be a little social. Now to go to the party tonight, Stanley gets ready and goes to get his car repaired in the garage. But the plumbers working in the garage said that your car has not been repaired yet. But now Stanley had to reach the party as soon as possible, so those plumbers gave Stanley an old and dangerous car, so that he reached directly to the party. Stanley was making fun of all these things seeing such a dirty car. Stanley noticed that Tina was also present at that place, who had gone inside the party laughing. But when Stanley tries to enter the party, all the security guards do not let him in because his condition was so poor that no one would take him inside. That is, Stanley was now thrown out. Stanley, taking his old car, started leaving from there and stopped on a bridge because his dangerous car also broke down completely. Although Stanley was trying very hard to fix it, after some time the car's hinges loosened and it started falling down. After this, Stanley had already lost all hope. Stanley, standing on that bridge, started thinking continuously. Suddenly he sees a dead body floating in the water, so he went there immediately to find out, but on closer inspection, there were only bushes here. Stanley was coming out of the water when he found that mask that was shown at the beginning of the story. The mask looked quite good, so Stanley took it out and started moving out. Suddenly some police officers were there who were telling Stanley to leave here as soon as possible. Now Stanley was very tired with that mask, so he came home and his landlady was troubling Stanley as usual and refusing to come late, but Stanley had become accustomed to all these things. So now he ignores his landlady and comes home. After coming home, Stanley watches his old cartoons when he suddenly remembers that he also has a mask, which he starts looking at in front of the mirror. Suddenly something shiny inside that mask starts appearing to Stanley, so now he jokingly puts that mask on his face and in the next moment, I do not know which energy came inside that mask, which covers Stanley's entire face. Within a short time, Stanley's entire behavior changes inside and now he did not seem afraid at all. Stanley had also come with strange powers because of that mask. He started having a lot of fun inside his room. He started doing a lot of things that no one could think of in a dream. Stanley was making a lot of noise and was creating a lot of chaos. Then his landlady comes in anger with a short gun and starts firing on him. Now as if the powers of superheroes had come inside Stanley's body, he escaped from bullets and jumped straight out. Stanley was laughing in a strange way again and again. Now after coming on the road, a car comes in front of him and starts honking horns. Stanley didn't like this at all, so he took out a strange type of whistle from his pocket and started blowing it rapidly in front of the car. The sound of this horn was so loud that the car's windows were completely shattered. Both ears of the car driver had become deaf, and he was stunned to see all this. After this, Stanley started roaming around the streets of the whole city and was also having a lot of fun. On the way, he even started shooting bullets at several thugs who were bothering some people. Now Stanley directly reaches inside that garage where he had given his car for repair. Stanley had enjoyed all those mechanics very much, destroying their garage because he remembered that these people had given him a useless car which had ruined his reputation. After creating all this chaos, Stanley wakes up completely in the morning. So that he doesn't remember anything. After some time, there is a knock on Stanley's door. After opening it, he finds out that it's a detective who came to inquire about the destruction in the city last night, but Stanley clearly states that he doesn't know anything about it. The detective had given Stanley his card, so if he learns anything, he can call. Now Stanley was getting ready quickly to go to his bank to work, and while leaving, he throws that mask out because he doesn't need it now. But the mask thrown towards the outside had flown back and come into his house. When Stanley reaches his office, his boss was scolding him a lot for coming so late. Could not do anything other than asking for forgiveness and there. And somewhere or the other, he had become accustomed to all these things. Now in Stanley's bank, a reporter named Peggy comes who wants to know everything about the destruction in the city last night, and she is asking everyone whether you saw anything or not. Although Stanley doesn't know anything about it, he liked talking to Peggy very much, so he slowly flirts with her and talks a lot. There was also a good bonding between the two in very little time. Now here we are showing that gangster Ryan who keeps planning to rob the bank. But all these things were known to Ryan's big boss, Milo, who was threatening Ryan and his people that they couldn't do all these things behind my back. Whatever you do, I want my share in it, otherwise leave this city forever. That means now Ryan and his people risked everything. They stole half of whatever they stole to Milo. Stanley is now present at his home, which he immediately remembers he had to go to Tina's performance, which is very important. Therefore, unintentionally, he wears that same mask again and transforms into that other personality. Now Stanley was feeling very confident and powerful again, but then he remembered that he didn't have any money to go anywhere. Therefore, after wearing the mask again, the other personality inside Stanley had already started walking towards the nearby bank to rob it. But the surprising thing was that at the same time, many companions of Ryan had also come to rob the bank. They all had entered the bank with complete planning and were stealing money, but then Stanley, using all his powers, first stole the money and started running away from there. That means for Ryan's people, there was not a single penny left there. Stanley had invested all that money quite well and went to that club where Tina's dance performance was. He entered like a king and danced a lot with all the money flying around. Tina, who used to see Stanley as very weak and cowardly before, now with the mask on, his other personality became quite confident, and Tina started liking this other avatar of Stanley somewhere. She also spent a good time dancing with him. When Ryan learned from his men that they had failed to steal money from the bank, he was threatening to kill them on the spot. And then Ryan's men told him that this work was done by the masked man who had already stolen the bank from us. Ryan was very angry at the masked man for this reason. Now he finds out his location and reaches inside the club with all his men. All the gangsters of Ryan were firing continuously at masked man Stanley, but Stanley was escaping from all the bullets by moving his body in a strange way. Although one bullet hit Stanley's tie, causing a piece of the tie to fall down. But Stanley had no idea about this at all. He successfully managed to escape from there, surprising everyone by showing a great comedy, and escaped. Within a short time, the police had also arrived there, who had caught Ryan and all his gang members, and no one else called the police, but it was done by Stanley's other form. There was also a detective among those police officers who had gone to Stanley's house first for interrogation. Upon investigating there, the detective found the piece of Stanley's cut tie, upon seeing which he began to suspect that this could definitely be Stanley's. Therefore, that detective immediately went to Stanley's house and started interrogating him about where this piece came from. Now Stanley had returned to his normal form, so he had no idea. Stanley was saying that my tie was stolen somewhere, then after that, no matter where I go, I don't care about it. The detective had some suspicion on Stanley somewhere, for now he went away from his house, but he was now keeping an eye on Stanley from ahead. Stanley now, as usual, went to work at the bank the next day, but by going there had been quite a lot of arguments with his boss, and now in this heat, his boss fired Stanley from his job. Stanley was so angry for the first time that he himself resigned. Now before going to the bank, he meets Tina, who was telling Stanley that she started liking Masked Man quite a lot, and if you please can help him, meet me. Stanley told that I know Masked Man quite well, and if you want to meet him, you come to the garden this evening. Tina also agrees to this thing. Stanley had come to know so much here that his second personality used to come only after wearing this mask, so he had taken this strange mask and gone directly to a man who was researching these masks, and the man was telling Stanley's mask that it was the mask of the mischievous deity Loki, which was activated only when worn at night. According to that man, there were strange types of masks all over the world, inside which different types of powers are there. Whichever person wears it, all those abilities will come inside him, meaning that Stanley's mask would activate only at night. Now, as evening fell, Stanley directly went to Tina, who wanted to meet not anyone else but Masked Man Stanley. To make Tina happy now, went behind a tree, put on the mask, and transformed into the mischievous deity Loki. Tina was very happy to see Masked Man now. They were enjoying comedy and romance together. However, the detective was still following Stanley, who had seen Stanley converting into Masked Man by wearing the mask. Now he quickly called the police force to come there so that they could catch Masked Man red-handed. Masked Man, that is Stanley, also saw those police officers, so he quickly took off his mask, leaving Tina, and started running away from there. But now the police officers had found out that Stanley was indeed Masked Man, so they were continuously following him. Just then, Stanley gets into a car where not anyone but Paige meets him, who had taken him inside and was taking him to a secluded place. Both of them sat hiddenly in a warehouse and talked a lot. Stanley had already provided all the information about the mask to Paige, how he would convert into Masked Man by wearing it. Paige was observing the mask very well in her hands when suddenly Ryan and all his gang members appeared from behind. Paige was giving Stanley's mask directly to Ryan, and then later it was found out that Paige works for Ryan, who was betraying Stanley for some money. And now Ryan had also come to know how much power is inside this mask, so now he kept the mask with him and called the police officers, which had kept Stanley inside the jail. Now Stanley has no powers because he has been completely imprisoned in jail. Tina comes there to meet Stanley the next day. Tina was telling Stanley that he should leave the city as soon as possible, but Stanley says that I don't even have a mask now. But Tina replied that you don't need a mask to become extraordinary, it was already within you. Just then, Stanley's adorable dog appeared at that place. He was very intelligent, so he went to the security and took the keys to the jail. He kept the keys with Stanley so that he could unlock the jail and escape from there. Meanwhile, Ryan had the powerful mask which he was now wearing. Ryan had also kidnapped Tina because he had come to know that Tina had started loving Stanley. He also placed a time bomb in front of Tina which was about to blast in a short time. Taking Tina with him, Ryan directly went to a very big clubhouse where his boss Milo was organizing a charity event with a lot of money. There were very wealthy people present there, including the mayor of the city. All the rich people were spending as much money as possible, making it breaking news till now. Stanley also quietly came there because he knew that Ryan would come here with Tina. Ryan had already come to the club with all his gang members who started attacking everyone directly with their powers. First, Ryan took the life of his boss Milo, and after that, he started grabbing all the money present there. Ryan placed a bomb at that place and tied Tina on top of a pole. But here Stanley's luck seemed to be quite useless because all of Ryan's people had seen him, who caught him and brought him in front of Ryan. Meaning that now Stanley's work was also going to be finished, but Tina plays a game here. She tells Ryan that she has started loving him and wants to kiss him once. Ryan, who was wearing the mask, comes to her, but Tina says to him to remove the mask and kiss her. Ryan couldn't wait at all and took off his powerful mask and approached Tina. Just then, Tina kicks the mask with her foot, which starts flying in the air. And that mask was now worn by Stanley's dog, inside which those mischievous powers had already come. Stanley's dog was also causing a lot of chaos, but Stanley quickly took off the mask from his dear dog's mouth and wore it himself. After that, all those dangerous powers came to Stanley. Stanley now humorously took out all his weapons and enjoyed beating up Ryan's gang members. No one could stand in front of Stanley anymore. Within a short time, all the police officers arrived there, who caught those gangsters and took them to jail. Stanley quickly took off his mask and became completely normal again, but the police were coming towards Stanley to arrest him too. However, the mayor of the city present there said that this was the work of Ryan and his people, Stanley had no hand in it. Therefore, Stanley was also respectfully released. After everything returned to normal there, Stanley made a decision to spend his future life with Tina. After thinking a lot, Stanley threw the powerful mask into the water so that he and no one else could use it again. However, seeing this, Stanley's friend Charlie starts feeling tempted and jumps into the water to take that mask. But before Charlie, Stanley's dog takes the mask and goes outside. This means that now the mask will come back to Stanley and our unique story ends here.